Today, we're talking about how we said no, and how saying no created $19,500 in passive income every single month from real estate, tax benefits, equity buildup, everything, you name it. But we're not exactly going to talk about the how that 19.5 is exactly broken down. We're going to talk about how the snowball was created by saying no. Welcome back, everybody. I filmed this morning at the beach, and it was way too windy, so we're going to take to this and film it right here. And we're going to use the Yeti microphone, not like I did in the Dave Ramsey video, and instead the way it's supposed to be used. I hope that's how it's supposed to be used. So I know you guys are dying to know, what are the 5 money mistakes that you can make early that could really ruin your chances of building the snowball of wealth? But before we hit that, I want to explain the importance of building this snowball of wealth by giving you a quick example. Let's say you have $13,750 saved up and you got yourself a job. You can spend this money by making one of the 5 financial mistakes to avoid early on, and then that money's gone. Or you could take that $13,750 and put it into some kind of stocks and bonds and maybe day trade a little bit or play around or whatever you want to do. And let's say, this sounds crazy, but just roll with me just for the point of the example that we're going to get into the 5 things. If you put that money away for the next 30 years and you grew it at 5%, every single year, that money would turn from $13,750 to just over $59,400. Now, that's kind of like, well, wait a minute, it's, 30 years down the road, who cares, right? Exactly, who cares? All right, 59 grand, whatever, big deal. Small potatoes. Now, this is one of the really important takeaways, and it'll really help you understand how impactful these 5 items are going to be. If you put that $13,750 and you did what I said in my live video on Saturday, and you bought that $250,000 condo that could almost essentially cover itself, let's just say it covers itself, the one that you bought was such a good deal that you could rent it out for what your payments were, even though you put 3.5% down, and we're not going to go into all the details of this, so it's for a different video, and you held the property for 30 years. With $13,750, you are controlling a $250,000 asset that's appreciable. Let's say that goes up at 5% for the next 30 years, and at the end of the 30 years, the thing's paid off. Your value of that $13,750 would now be a grand total, mortgage insurance, and everything included, of over $1 million. Because you use the concept of safer real estate leverage. That doesn't mean it's without risk, but you use the concept of safer real estate leverage to say, I took $13,750. I took advantage of the fact that the American government allows me to control a property for just 3.5% down. And I let that cook. And while I let that cook, well, hopefully you bought more real estate. But if you didn't, then you can go ahead and make these 5 mistakes. So when you think about these 5 mistakes, maybe think about postponing these mistakes. Make them later in life. That's what I'm doing. All right, here we go. Number 1 money mistake that you can make while you're trying to get started to build wealth and to build your own personal empire and personal fortune is to buy material goods, primarily a new car, boat, or RV, or some kind of utility vehicle that you don't need for a business. Look, it's different. If you're running a construction company and you need vans, if you're running a plumbing company and you need pickup trucks, then that is different. But if you just need to get from point A to point B to get to your job, you do not need a brand new car. As long as you can get there in reasonable safety and comfort, that's it. That's all you need. And the bottom line is, there are awesome cars out there like my father-in-law's Acura MDX that are safe and reliable, and that thing, it's old. They were the original owners and they pampered that baby. But guess what? It still drives. Kelly Blue Book says it's worth about $3,000. He'll sell it to you for $5,000. That's still a good deal. Johnny Kramer? Oh, I thought that was Jim Kramer. That would have been cool. Anyway, new car, big mistake.
He has no idea how bad it is out there. He has no idea. He has no idea.
Kramer.
Especially when you're starting out. Instead of getting that $20,000 car, take that $13,750, buy yourself an appreciating asset. It doesn't have to be real estate. Find something that you can safely leverage into and acquire and build wealth early on. Oh wait, the only thing that really qualifies for that is real estate. Sorry, I'm jaded, okay? Let me just get through the 5 points. I personally wish I didn't make some of the mistakes I did when it came to cars. When I was 16 years old, I leased a BMW 328i. I think it was like $400 a month. It was crazy. And that was crazy because think about it. Had I just bought a car then, like a Toyota Camry or something, my payment would have probably been $200 less every single month, and the darn thing could have just been paid off by the time I was 19. Instead, when I was 19, guess what I had to go do? I had to go buy a car. So I bought a Toyota Prius to use to help me brand my business in 2010 or 2011. One of those years. And I wish I just had bought the car at the beginning, because then I would have this car. Now I've got this car. It has almost no maintenance that it needs, and the darn thing just keeps driving. It's safe, it's reliable, it's got good fuel economy. Why do I need a new car? And see, remember how in the beginning I said I built the snowball and then kind of splurged? It was a mistake even now, I believe, to buy the Tesla. Now, the Tesla is great for trying to appeal to maybe higher end buyers or whatever, because apparently that's important to some people. It doesn't change who I am, but the bottom line is, if I were working for a company, there's no way in heck I would have bought that car, because there's a darn trap. The Wall Street Journal talked about it in the November of 2014, and I wish they talked about it more. And it's called hedonic adaptation. Some people say hedonic adaptation. I guess, whatever your preference is, potato. And basically, after you buy a material good, you get so used to it that your appreciation of that good pretty much plummets off to zero, and then you get used to it again, and your happiness level just went up temporarily while, I had a new car! And then you get used to it, or worse, you start having to deal with the problems that product is giving you, maintenance, repairs, learning curve, whatever, or service update problems like the Tesla, then you just end up getting less happy overall anyway. So new car, I suggest not. Boat, RV, utility vehicle, if you could rent these things, just rent them. Number 2, I think I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this one. So I think that's kind of why I'm doing this sort of like devilish collar thing, because hopefully you will disassociate me from the content that I'm about to say, because it could be earth-shattering. Not really. Maybe that's just how I feel it is, because it's not really societally acceptable to do this. Maybe it should be. All right, here's the bottom line. I'm just gonna lay it down to you guys. Weddings are freaking expensive, and if you can save on not having a wedding yet, I'm not saying don't ever have a wedding, yet. When you're starting out, when you're 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, you're in a relationship for a while, why are you spending all your savings on a wedding? Look, if your family is going to pay for it because your religion demands a large wedding, that's fine. If your family is going to pay for it because it's culturally what is wanted in your family, fine. But if it's on your shoulders to pay for the wedding, you postpone that wedding. You buy that house first. Maybe get married and, go to the courthouse, costs like $150, and actually have your wedding celebration, which is the big party, the big event, the bachelor night, all that stuff. Have that later. I mean, technically, it's the celebration that matters, and it's a party, it's a presentation, and weddings are awesome. I love going to weddings. In fact, I recommend you just be the guest at a lot of weddings. And it's okay to bring them a really nice gift, because that wedding costs a lot of money. And that's the thing. People spend $20, $30, $40, $50, $100,000 more on a wedding. It blows my mind. Think about a new couple. The financial freedom people in society could give new couples by securing them with some high quality assets that have equity in them, or have the potential of growing equity, have the potential of being relatively stress-free to manage, and overall relatively safe in that you can rent them out as a fallback if you choose to live in it. If you think I'm crazy for saying it, let me put this into perspective. Lauren and I lived together, and I understand this might be culturally unacceptable, so sorry, but the bottom line is it happened. We lived together from 2009 to 2013. We met in 2008. We didn't get married until the end of 2013. Because we had sort of already been together, and because we were saving to buy house number 2 in our example, we chose not to have an expensive wedding. Instead, we had almost a free wedding by having Lauren's father be the minister or get ordained or whatever and do the thing. And we did it with a very small gathering in public in Italy. You're not supposed to do that. And it was part of our honeymoon trip. which is awesome because basically fractioned out, our wedding really only cost us like $200. Our honeymoon was awesome. We spent like, I don't know, maybe our honeymoon was like $8,000 or something like that. But it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. Experiences are extremely valuable. In fact, that same Wall Street Journal article says that experiences are much less relative, are much harder for other people to sort of one-up you on, because how do you quantify an experience, and overall lead to much longer lasting experience happiness in the long run when you spend money on quality experiences. That isn't to say that you shouldn't spend money on the experience of a wedding. What it is to say is you're better off spending money on going on an $8,000 honeymoon and having an awesome 2-week experience than you are blowing $50,000 in one evening or one day, not to mention the stress leading up to these events. And again, I'm not suggesting that you should not have a wedding, but maybe if you're just starting out, you might consider postponing your wedding. Maybe you just happen not to be married for an extra 5 years when you really are, or something like that, and invest in yourselves and your future, because what's worse to a family today than living paycheck to paycheck and struggling to get by? That's asking for divorce and unhappiness. Money problems are the #1 source of problems in America. So maybe postpone the wedding and do what Lauren and I did. You don't have to do what I did. You don't even have to listen to number 2. You know what? Let's skip to number 3, okay? Enough on this one. Number 3, and in no way did this come from the last example, watches and jewelry. There's not much to say here. Don't spend your money on them when you're just starting out. What's the point? They don't create passive income. If you get a collector piece, maybe eventually they will, but they're usually expensive to acquire. If you got them gifted, that's fine. Jewelry looks beautiful, but all it really does for you is, look what I got. And the last thing you want to do when you're in the acquiring phase of life, or quite frankly, really ever, is to be the person that is always flexing, look what I got. Because most people who try to appear rich ain't rich. Number 4, furniture and spas. If there's anything Lauren and I learned over the course of living in a few different properties, having to buy furniture, and having children, don't buy expensive furniture. It's a waste of money. IKEA, for the vast majority of things, is awesome. And then there's Target and Pier 1. That's it. Don't go to Restoration Hardware unless you got money to flex, and that's all you want to do. Hate to say it, I love Restoration Hardware. I steal their ideas all the time. I'm sorry if you guys are listening to this. I apologize. And I bought my spa used for $1,800. I thought I was getting a really good deal, but I rarely go in the thing because the nature of the American culture is we are too stressed out to be able to take care of ourselves. And that's sad. Still wake up early to go to the gym, or I will again when I'm done being all nasally and sick. But the spa, I don't know if it's worth the $1,800 plus like the $90 a month for the electricity to power the darn thing. Next topic. Number 5, expensive clothing. Look, I get it. If you're in business, you need to have nicer things. If you're trying to be an entrepreneur or build a reputation, the nature is you probably need to dress nicely. Do you have to buy the most expensive Louis Vuitton suit there is for $3,000? No. The $800 Hugo Boss will get you just as far. Now, which, by the way, is what I usually wear. But I don't even buy the $170 white shirts because they're too expensive for me. Instead, I get the Brooks Brothers ones for like $80 when they're on sale. Okay? Come on. Transparency here. Oh, and I get the non-ironed ones because I hate ironing the darn things. They still wrinkle. You know, when you wear them, non-iron doesn't work while you're wearing them, I've noticed. Bottom line, though, for everybody out there, if you're starting out, expensive shoes and fancy clothing, it just ain't worth it. You've got Target and you've got American Eagle. American Eagle's got your jeans and Target's got everything else. Socks, underwear, undershirts, that's it. That's all you need to do. And now they got some pretty dang sweet t-shirts and pants as well. I'm really starting to like Target. If you haven't gone to Target lately, give them a chance because they're freaking awesome for the prices they got out there. Alright? I'm really sorry if any of the 5 things in this list offended you. I just hope that you can recognize taking $13,750 today, putting it into a $250,000 condo that, let's say, appreciates at 5% a year for 30 years, is going to be worth over $1 million. $13,750 million. And don't tell me you're going to be dead in 30 years, because the bottom line is that it's very, 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 very narrow-minded. Because guess what you get to do in the meantime when you got an appreciating asset? You get to pull money out and put some money over here. You get to take some money from over there and over here and go buy another property. And all of a sudden, you have a snowball of wealth. So that is why I recommend you do not make these 5 mistakes early on. And keep watching finance and educational videos, especially on real estate, if you want to maximize your opportunities in life. Good luck.